Night on the Black Channel. People want to have my thoughts about the Republican Party going full Jim Crow, of course, with the help of the Roger Taney Dred Scott United States Supreme Court. They've gone full Jim Crow, erasing black districts. People want my thoughts on it. For those of you who are not up to speed, I brought some sound bites here that will help you. First, Jimbo Jangles Clyburn speaking on CNN.
So let's talk about the redistricting wars, the gerrymandering wars more broadly. President Trump kicked off this battle by urging Texas to redistrict and create more Republican-leaning seats last year. Then Democrats decided to fight fire with fire. California came after that, Virginia, and more. After redrawing maps in 6 states, Republicans now have approximately an 8-seat advantage in these gerrymandering wars. What do you think this might mean come November? Might Republicans hold the House?
Well, they might, and they might not, because I do believe that the voters in this country are watching very closely, and they are feeling emotionally what the threat is to our future. And I do not believe that the majority of the voters in this country condone and will agree with what President Trump is doing. South Carolina, our delegation, our House, talked with him, the Senate, I guess, on the day before yesterday. But the Supreme Court, 2 years ago, spoke to this district and said it was not unconstitutional. But the president says he wants them to redraw the lines anyway. All I'm going to say to that is be very careful what you pray for. Because what I do believe is that when they finish with the redistricting, there will be the possibilities of at least 3 Democrats getting elected here in South Carolina to the United States Congress.
Oh, so you think that the redistricting they're doing in South Carolina could not only dilute your Democratic-leaning district, but other Republican-leaning districts so as to make them more competitive. That's interesting.
Okay, so that is the word South Carolina from Jimbo Jangles Clyburn there. I brought some visual aids for you all here tonight. It started in Texas and whatnot. It really kicked off here. It's really gone nuclear in Louisiana. Of course, Louisiana, which is last in everything good and first in everything reprehensible, because like so much of American history, in particular here, Louisiana is lorded over by white supremacists. Is lorded over by white supremacists here, and because of that, you end up with a situation like what you have here. You end up with that kind of situation where they should be focused on, little things like the fact that, you're basically a third world state. However, in the sick, degenerate, diseased brain of the white supremacists, they would rather be kings of a cesspool, long as they're the ones running the cesspool, than to have anything else occurred and to have a prosperous place, which is what it should be. So that's what happens when you have that kind of thing occur. So as you can see on here and whatnot, they're showing like the old map and whatnot. And when they get done with it, these are things that they're looking to have done. They're looking to change all of this. And Florida is looking at doing the same thing. And then Tennessee looking to do the same thing. So a lot of that going on there, as you're noticing. A lot when they talk about noticing, well, we're noticing this. They basically want to wipe out the congressional district where Memphis, Tennessee, as we all know, majority black area there. And of course, they're targeting that. So if you thought that what was going on when they wanted to bring the Ford plant to Tennessee, if you thought that was just, a one-off, anybody who tried to argue, though, that's just incidental. Of course, it's a race war. People, I did a whole documentary about this. Of course, it's a race war. Of course, it's a race war, and I want you to understand that my perspective on this, I had a caller who asked about it last night, and they're wondering, well, Jason, why aren't you running around with your hair on fire? Why aren't you doing that? As a matter of fact, talk about people with their hair on fire. Here is your representatives there in Tennessee. We all remember this little cartoon character, Justin Pearson. This is him. This is him. And Mr. Reverend Damian Thaddeus Jones said it best here. Justin Pearson embodies most of black male leadership now. Performative, caricature, emotional. But why is the crowd clapping? Because, sir, if you're not too dense, they're the same doggone way. I mean, this is what in the world's going on here. You need thoughtful, competent, sober leadership. And just like Barack Obama, this is what they offer you politically is a sideshow. They offer you a sideshow. Come on out and vote for the sideshow. And too many Negroes, particularly from the civil rights generation, this passes for political competence for them. It's how entertaining you are. Well, guess what, folks? There are some other people out there. Their idea about politics ain't very damned entertaining. This in from Luther Campbell's Twitter page here, out of Florida. And these folks here have their heads screwed on very straight and very sober with a very sobering assessment of what's happening in Florida. I want you to listen to this.
And let me start by wishing all the moms out there a happy Mother's Day. Now, on Monday, Governor Ron DeSantis signed the bill redrawing congressional districts in Florida. The new map, drawn using voter files and partisan information, could help Republicans pick up 4 additional seats in Florida. As we noted last week, DeSantis decided that he doesn't have to follow the Florida Constitution, which prohibits political gerrymandering. So while the governor is picking and choosing which parts of the Florida Constitution he wants to follow, a political firestorm is brewing as Democratic politicians whose seats were wiped out are now trying to figure out where to run. Jared Moskowitz seems likely to run in the newly drawn Congressional District 25, which includes Miami Beach and...
Okay, so what he's telling you there is Ron DeSantis, white supremacist extraordinaire. And as I've always warned you all, with this faux Latino thing, and a lot of people did not understand what I meant by that, even though I explained this going as far back as 2016 and why I told you that Donald Trump was going to take Florida, while there were a bunch of other folk trying to tell me, Jason, the Latinos ain't going to be voting for those Trumps. And then Trump steamrolls Florida, and all of a sudden, yeah, there you go. And Ron DeSantis, who has unprecedented popularity in Florida, there's only one place you can get that from. So in any case, they're letting you know that's what's happening here. Yeah, but guess what? Before this news piece is over, they are going to articulate for you that even under this new congressional districting scheme, the biggest issue that black folk are encountering isn't coming from the Republicans. In fact, it's coming from the Democrats.
Likely to run in the newly drawn Congressional District 25, which includes Miami Beach and Aventura and runs up the coast through Fort Lauderdale all the way to Boca Raton and Delray Beach. His announcement is expected by the end of next week. The real mystery is what Debbie Wasserman Schultz will do. The longest-serving congressional Democrat in Florida, she has been in the House for more than 2 decades. She could run in the new District 22, but it is a district Trump won by 10 points. The more likely option is that she'll run in Congressional District 20, which is solidly Democratic, but it is also an area that has been represented by African Americans for the last 32 years. The district is 40% black, and there are currently at least 4 African Americans running in that seat, which means Wasserman Schultz will be counting on her opponents in the primary, splitting up the African American vote and allowing her to become the nominee. The Broward County Democratic Black Caucus has asked Wasserman Schultz not to run for that seat, and it is clear that if she did run, it would turn into an ugly and potentially racial affair. But again, it may be her best shot at remaining in Congress. This week, I spoke to State Senator Rosalind Osgood.
Now, I want to go back to what he just said there, because I want you all to hear this one more time.
The African American vote and allowing her to become the nominee. The Broward County Democratic Black Caucus has asked Wasserman Schultz not to run for that seat.
The Broward County Democratic Black Caucus has asked. They are asking Debbie Wasserman Schultz not to run for that seat. That's all very interesting from my eyes, because you see, when it comes to black politicians, the Democratic Party does not ask you to do things. They tell you to do things. Case in point. Damn! Anyone remember this right here that I keep reminding you about? Keisha Bottoms was the sitting mayor of Atlanta. And before she even had a chance to run for re-election, none other than Joe Biden himself came down in the middle of the pandemic to let her know, yeah, you're not running for re-election. That ain't happening. You're not going. Up there in Chicago, drunk Uncle Lightfoot, they let her know, we're going to pull your support, ma'am. You shouldn't run again. She decides she's going to do it. We're pulling support for you. They didn't ask her to do a damn thing. These folk don't ask us to do nothing. They just send down the word, and that's what it's going to be. And yet in Florida, a place that has been perpetually off code, it has been a perpetual epicenter of off-code coonery and buffoonery, particularly from the foreign flag contingent that has brought over the same chaotic, misguided, disorganized tribalism that they practice all in those places they come from. Well, they brought it here. And what do you know? Miss Schultz, who, by the way, is Jewish. Nothing wrong with being Jewish. However, if this were Yonkers, New York. What? Oh, I'm going there. If this were Yonkers, if this were Ocean Ave in Brooklyn, now, if this were any of those places and black politicians were trying to do this in these Jewish communities, and they got a fair amount of those in Florida, by the way, if they were trying to do this in these Jewish communities, Miss Debbie Wasserman Schultz, would you be supporting that kind of behavior among your people in majority Jewish districts, ma'am? When you take a look at places like West Palm Beach, Miami Gardens, we can go down the list. So Debbie Wasserman Schultz, would you even suggest or imply such a thing would occur in a Jewish community with black politicians? Hell no. Miriam Adelson, Larry Ellison, and the rest of them would have already sent the word, and if you're a bit hard-headed and hard of hearing, they would have already sent the bag and made it very clear, you are getting washed out. It ain't happening. With these folks here, the so-called black political establishment there, well, they want you all to know that they're politely asking Debbie Wasserman Schultz not to invade the black district there. The first thing you have to recognize is that is a sure sign of weakness. Power does not ask, power takes. And there's no greater sign of powerlessness than this. But folks, you haven't heard the worst yet. This state congresswoman he's going to talk to here in a moment, I want you all to listen to what she has to say, because whether it was from A-Dunce or other folks talking about our Non-black allies. Allies. Watch out for these folk who bring up that term allies. That was one of the reasons why a lot of y'all early on is like, well, Jason, why is it you never really rocked with ADOS like that? Yeah, because folks started talking about allies. When I hear things like that, Jason didn't really rock with him like that. Yeah, I'm falling all the way back. I heard, well, Jason, you didn't say nothing. When I'm not saying anything, I'm trying to tell you something. I'm hearing things I shouldn't be hearing. And yeah, this never ends well. This never ends well. So, I want to go in here for a moment. I want to play this for you all.
And it is clear that if she did run, it would tip the African American vote and allowing her to become the nominee. The Broward County Democratic Black Caucus has asked Wasserman Schultz not to run for that seat. And it is clear that if she did run, it would turn into an ugly and potentially racial affair. But again, it may be her best shot at remaining in Congress. This week, I spoke to State Senator Rosalind Osgood, who does not believe Wasserman Schultz should run in a seat long held by African Americans.
So, Jim, as you know, the Democratic Party has been held together through the strong coalition of Jews and Black people. We've always worked collaboratively.
Okay. Right out of the gate. I just wanted to let you all know, if you want to know the conversations that go on behind the scenes when y'all ain't there, these folk y'all vote for, if you want to know what they really think and what the conversations are going on, if you want to know why it is that there's tons of rich Jewish folk down there in Florida and black folk are struggling and striving and scraping by because this is your so-called black leadership, I just want you to understand the perspective from which they see things. So for those of you who thought the issue was black and brown, black and brown, black and brown, I just want you to understand this. Like I told you all for decades now, it's not black and brown or black and white or whatever. It's black or else. And I just wanted you to see that this is what your so-called black political leadership down there, this is why the Democrats support individuals like this with her beret, raspberry beret on her head. What? Yes, this is what she really believes and thinks. So just wanted you to know that right off the bat.
State Senator Rosalind Osgood, who does not believe Wasserman Schultz should run in a seat long held by African Americans.
So, Jim, as you know, the Democratic Party has been held together through the strong coalition of Jews and Black people. We've always worked collaboratively with Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Certainly, I represent a district that's multiracial. I try to serve all of my constituents. But when you're Black in America, you have a different lived experience. It is critically important to have someone with your lived experience representing you in Congress to be a part of those conversations, those debates. We're just saying, don't minimize our opportunity. This is exactly what Ron DeSantis' intentions was. If you look at congressional 20 district areas like Plantation, Sunrise, it's kind of a map where the Black people live. So you pack many of us into one district, you crack out certain parts of the community, like you put Belle Glade in another district, people in Palm Beach. So the Black people's vote and representation is not equal, it's diluted. So if you have a race with 6 Black people in and Debbie gets in that race, you know, maybe the thought is that the Black people will dilute the vote and it gives her an automatic shoe-in. I don't know if it's the easiest path forward with her. I did talk to her. She explained to me how important seniority is in Congress, and we want to keep her in Congress. But we're just asking her to consider running in the district that she was drawn into, or even in the coastal district where Moskowitz says he's going to run, where it's predominantly Jew. So when you look at what's going on in Broward, particularly Palm Beach and Broward, how the district's being tapped, it kind of gives incumbents like Lois Frankel, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, you know, Moskowitz, it's like they're vying to protect their seats. And what we're saying is we've been an ally. We've been a supporter. We want to have someone with our lived experience. Let our community kind of decide through the voting process who that person is going to be.
Well, let me jump in and let me push back a little. As you
Okay, folks, so you all heard her right there. Allies. We've been allies. We're an ally. Yeah. We're an ally. How's that alliance working out, folks? Listen to what the hell this raggedy chick is talking about here, y'all. This is where her, quote, alliance has gotten her. And before this news piece is over, she's going to let you know about what a savvy, privileged politician she is. Oh, I'm not joking. She's going to tell you, before this news piece is over, you're going to hear her say how she personally is a savvy, privileged politician down there in Florida. But I just wanted to ask you all, by the way, she keeps talking about allies. How's that alliance working out, folks?
Decide through the voting process who that person is going to be.
Well, let me jump in and let me push back a little. As you noted earlier, you represent a multiracial, multicultural district yourself. I'm sure that the whites and Hispanics in your district, think that you probably represent them well and are doing a good job, and you certainly are trying to do the best for them. Could you not see the argument that because of Debbie Wasserman Schultz's seniority, because of her standing in Congress, that she might be able to do things for Congressional District 20 that a freshman member of Congress, like either a Dale Holness or a Luther Campbell or any of the other candidates in there would be able to do?
The difference is when you go back to the history of why this seat was created during this redistricting time in 1992, it was to have people with Black lived experiences in Congress. And we can't move away from that historical fact. It's kind of like, as a Black person, you feel like we had Reconstruction. Then we got the Jim Crow, the poll tax. So now redistricting is being used to suppress our vote. So historically, for us, because of why the seat was created, it's like something is now being taken away from us. And we're just trying to explain and get Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz to understand how important it is to us in our community to have someone with our lived experience. Sure, she might be able to do things for our community, but she doesn't have the lived experience to fight on certain issues and explain why they're important to our community.
Do you envision that if Debbie Wasserman Schultz were to get into District 20, she would be counting on the idea that because there are so many Black candidates already in the race, that they would, as you mentioned earlier, dilute the vote or divvy up the vote, and that she could potentially win the Democratic primary with maybe 30% of the vote, 35% of the vote? Do you think that if she were to get in the race, that all of the other Black candidates should remain in the race, or do you think that they should, among themselves, decide to galvanize behind just one candidate? And if that's the case, who do you think that one candidate should be to run against her?
And maybe they will decide to do that. I don't know who that one candidate should be to run against her. I think if she gets into the race, the community will come together and come up with a strategy to try to put our community in the best position to have someone with our lived experience. But Debbie has been an ally with us. So we don't want it to be us against Debbie. She has $2.5 million. She has other options. And we're asking her to consider those other options, that we could continue to work as allies together and not have this divide. The other issue is the overall party issue. People oftentimes talk about how Blacks don't come out to vote. Many Blacks will tell you in community as you're talking to them, nothing changes for us with the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. So this has the potential to now.
What? Oh, man. Well, folks, as I told you all, as soon as the Republicans start bringing on the heat, as soon as the Democrats start losing control and losing power, I'll be damned if your so-called boot-licking, ass-kissing black Democrat politicians all of a sudden suddenly find religion and start saying the exact same thing that we've been saying here for decades. Well, I'll be damned. Well, where the hell was this talk last year, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when Barack Obama and his wench ass wife was dancing the Dougie and singing Al Green? Where was this then when we were saying it the whole time? So as I told you all, folks, these damn crooked ass politicians already know what we want. They hear what the hell we talking about. Their job is to attempt to evade and circumvent what we want. You go and tell them exactly what it's supposed to be. They heard every word. They said, okay, go ahead and vote for me. And then as soon as you vote for them, okay, damn y'all niggas, me and my good friend Debbie, me and Debbie, we is allies with me and Debbie. But as soon as their asses are in a vice, all of a sudden it's, well, you know, I mean, the reason we can't get the black vote out is because they say nothing changes even when the Democrats are in. Well, to any gold-plated jackass out there who tries to say, well, y'all don't support the Democrats, Republicans is going to win. And the Democrats, when they're finally forced to tell the truth, and what have I told you all for decades now, if you want a black person to tell the truth, just get a white person to ask the questions. They'll do a Simone Sanders or a Roland Martin and talk stupid and crazy. When black folk talk to them, you let a white person ask the questions, because they know there's accountability if you lie to a white person. So you let a white person ask the question, and all of a sudden these folk get real honest and real candid. Okay. Just wanted to make sure about that now. So what she tell you exactly what we've been saying now going on 2 decades?
Other options that we could continue to work as allies together and not have this divide. The other issue is the overall party issue. People oftentimes talk about how blacks don't come out to vote. Many blacks will tell you in community as you're talking to them, nothing changes for us with the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. So this has the potential to now also impact the governor's race from the Democratic Party perspective and a lot of other races, because black people with black lived experience want it to be fair. We want to have someone with our lived experience representing us in Congress. We've had it for 34 years. We want little black boys and little black girls to see somebody that look like them so that they can dream and have an idea of a possibility of an opportunity. We don't want to go down that road with Debbie. We want to continue to work in partnership with Debbie. She supported our community. We've supported her. And we just need her to pause and hear us and understand, it from and I know it's hard. When you don't have a black lived experience, you can't imagine the difference it is when you're in that black lived experience. And when we talk about erasing black history, now we're looking at erasing black representation. It is very important to the participation of black people, what we're going to do in the future, and how we move forward.
If Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz decides to run in Congressional District 22, because I think that's the other district she's looking at, is 20 and 22. If she were to run in another district and not run in District 20, would you potentially get into Congressional District 20 in the race itself? Do you think would you be a potential candidate for Congress as well?
Well, I have a lot of people asking me that question. And you know my history. I kind of go with my community. I have to consider everything. I love where I'm at in the Senate. I get results. I work very well across the aisle because that's how I think democracy should be. I think we could have difference of opinions, but when we focus on people and prioritize people and issues and have conversations, we're able to get things done. So I have.
Oh, well, did you hear that, everybody? Why, she says that she likes where she is in the Senate because she gets things done. I'm curious to my folks in Florida, what exactly has she specifically gotten done? Because according to her, why, you need to leave her in the Florida State Senate because, why, she's very good at what she does and she's very good at reaching across the aisle and getting things done. I mean, according to her. So, to my folks in Florida, I'm just curious. Okay, y'all, well, she says that she gets stuff done and that she's very good at it. And I'm like, okay. Well, to my folks in Florida, can anybody vouch for this? Whose woman is this? Whose woman is this? Because she just told you. Y'all just heard what she said. Y'all heard what she just said.
Have to consider everything. You know, I would prefer to stay in my Senate seat and do what I'm doing. But I kind of go with how the community pushes me and what the community asks of me. So I have to consider all my options.
Well, let me ask you this. If she were to run in that race, do you think that would then preclude you from wanting to get in and add yet another African American into the race to further splinter the vote? In other words, if she does declare for Congressional District 20, would that pretty much end any thoughts that you had about running in that district?
Well, it just depends on how the community moves. Maybe the Black community gets together and we decide who the best candidate is. We might decide it's Rosalind Osgood. We might decide it's Dale Holness. We might decide it's one of the other candidates. But those are all options. We're trying to continue to be in partnership with Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz. We don't want it to be her legacy that she remains in Congress by disenfranchising the Black community.
Yes, because you would much rather that you and the rest of the Black political class down there disenfranchise the Black community yourselves. You'd much rather that be the case. Now, of course, as I said there before, this is all on Luther Campbell's page here. He thinks he's running for Congress. He's pretending he is, but he's not. He put up a post here 4 hours ago. Just like Jim said, Debbie Wasserman Schultz clearly has another option. There's a district Donald Trump only won by around 10%, and with his poll numbers dropping, that would make far more sense for the Democratic Party overall. But if she chooses to jump into a majority Black Congressional District 20 race against multiple Black candidates, then this stops being about protecting the party and starts being about protecting herself. Black voters have carried the Democratic Party for decades.
Nigga, what?
Y'all, isn't it amazing? All of we illegal aliens, and we gotta look out for illegal aliens and all the non-FBA crowd. All of a sudden, we Black folks, we got to stick together. I'll be damned now when it's time for carnival and shaking your ass and doing other baboonery. They got a whole different vocabulary at that time, but all of a sudden, when white supremacy swoop in, now it becomes black. All of a sudden, they discovered the word black. They discovered the concept of blackness all of a sudden, and they're not saying it whispered in soft tones behind the bleachers or behind the house. All of a sudden, blackness is centered at front of mind. All of a sudden, it is the focal point. Is what they're leading with it. Now remember they told you all that y'all pro-black. for you pro-blacks. All the Roland Martins and whatnot, you pro-blacks. All is a slur when they say it, but when we actually need to clarify things, all of a sudden blackness is centered in the discussion, and they lead with it. Oh, so as I said, they start talking just like us. The folk that they were criticizing before, they start talking just like us. All of a sudden, it's okay to say it. So in other words, during a normal election cycle, they getting their little checks under the table and their little pats on the back from the white establishment. So they tell all us, all right, pipe down with that black stuff, y'all making trouble. As soon as they're about to get their asses booted out, all of a sudden everything is black, blackity, black. Okay. All right. So he says, if she chooses to jump into a majority black congressional district 20 race against multiple black candidates, then this stops being about protecting the party and starts being about protecting herself. Black voters have carried the Democratic Party for decades. We deserve respect, representation, and the opportunity to choose leadership from our own communities without establishment interference. And let me be clear, if she decides to come into this race, I will not hold back. I will fight for this community, for Broward County, and for the people who feel overlooked and taken for granted by political insiders. This is bigger than one seat. This is about the future of the Democratic Party and whether it truly believes in everything it claims to stand for. Make sure you're on the right side of history. Vote Luther, Uncle Luke Campbell for Congress, Congressional District 20. Yeah, folks. All of a sudden, everybody's figured out how to be black all of a sudden. All of a sudden, they figured out how to be black. All of a sudden, hey, Luke, all of a sudden, the issue ain't damn me housing, is it?
Nigga, please.
Y'all remember that bull crap from a few years ago? Luther Campbell was talking about every damn thing else except blackness. What about housing and what about education? All right, now all of a sudden it's about being black all of a sudden. Well, hell yeah, because things got real. That's the reason why. All of a sudden there's no more of this damn coon talk because things done got real. Real quick, real fast. So, from coast to coast, they are out there Xing out the black districts. They are out there enforcing and instituting Jim Crow openly now. Openly. This is what happens when white supremacy feels the wind at their backs. And to anyone wondering where my position is on all of this and where I stand on all of this, yes, I am watching it all. I see it all unfolding. And I would like to take this as my opportunity to inform you about how I feel about it. And how I feel about it is that this is good.
And deal with it.
This is good. I need you all to understand something here, because I don't play about this. I need you to understand exactly what the hell you're looking at here and why it is that these things frighten other people, but they don't frighten me. There's a reason for that, because you see, this is your current black representation. And this is what happens when the boot of white supremacy is allowed to be eased up on people's necks and folk feel like they have the freedom and the luxury to bull jive around like this damn cartoon character on your screen up here. And instead of voting for solid black leadership, they sit up here and vote for the damn class clown. And in every district, in every state, this is what tends to be leading it, is the class clown. And the low rent, low account, low brow Negroes who have a taste for this kind of garbage. And so that's why it's necessary to allow the beast to start running rampant. That's why it's necessary to do that, because you see, these cats ain't playing. Ron DeSantis ain't playing. Governor Landry in Louisiana ain't playing. The governor of Tennessee ain't bull jiving. The governor of South Carolina, who's that, McMaster? He ain't bull jiving. They ain't playing. They like, yeah, while you sitting up here dancing a jig, dude, we gonna bring back full-blooded Jim Crow. While you doing this. Ron DeSantis ain't dancing no jig. He's doing all his dancing, signing in blatant open white supremacy into law. So you see, I said this over a decade ago after the murder of Mike Brown and the murder of Trayvon Martin. I said, no, I don't want white supremacy to ease up because too many black folk are fragile and looking to go back to bull jiving and playing around. And if they ease up the pressure, if they ease up the oppression, folks are going to turn right back around after they ease it up by 5 or 10% and then go back to clowning around again. No, they need to keep the pressure on. The boot needs to be down. It needs to be white supremacy, full frontal assault, so you cannot ignore it. It needs to be so blatant, so brutal, so overbearing, so unbearable, so in your face, so intolerable, and so in your daily life in such an unavoidable manner that you have no choice but to see this thing all the way through. No half measures, no partial successes, that the boot is strangling you and choking the life out of you until you have no other option but to see this all the way through and to defeat this white supremacist beast. No half measures. And that simply will not happen if they're allowed to ease up in it. It's like, oh, no. No. It's going to have to be that. It's going to have to be that. That's what that's going to have to be. So when you ask me about what I think about those things right there, that's what I think about it. I think that. See, these folks are sitting up here trying to scare you with stuff. Now I'm looking at the Democrats and saying, by the way, what the hell did you all do? You have a bunch of Democrat politicians trying to protect themselves. And I just wanted to make something very, very clear here. Y'all notice that when these politicians, these black politicians come and talk to black folk, you notice they always got a smart mouth and a slick mouth that on them. While they sit up here and start smarting off to us, they get real rude. However, when she's talking about Miss Debbie, while shows of Miss Debbie used as allies, and we love you. We love your pumpkin pies there, Miss Debbie. So we love your pumpkin pies there. We want to show up for your bar mitzvahs. We sure do love that there, Miss Debbie. You know, we sure do hopes that you allows us to keep our congressional seats here, Miss Debbie. We wanted to come and talk to you here. As I come to your house here and we meet little Charlie and little Becky. Hey, Charlie and Becky, how y'all doing right there? We appreciate y'all here there. Miss Debbie. They come and talk to us. Look here, you little niggas. Y'all need to shut the hell up with that damn black, pro-black mess. You can kiss my pro-black ass. We don't need none of that mess. Now, that's how they talk to us. Well, why don't you bring some of that slick talk to Miss Debbie? This is the time for you to bring some of that slick at the mouth talk to Miss Debbie. Why don't we get that? That's what I want to hear. I want to hear some of that slick at the mouth talk that y'all like to do so damn much. I want to see Miss Debbie get some of that. Why don't you give Lil Debbie some of them snack cakes?
And deal with it.
I just couldn't help but notice they ain't got no smoke for Miss Debbie. But when they talk to us, all of a sudden, it's a bunch of rude-ass jive talk. Ain't that right, Luther Campbell? Folks, has Luther Campbell talked to us like he got some damn sense? I need to explain to you all one of the basic precepts and principles of politics. I need you all to understand that. So, when you're running for office, you're supposed to be talking to the constituency about what it is they want. You're supposed to be talking to the constituency about what it is that they want. And you're not supposed to be arguing with them. You're supposed to be finding out what it is they want and then delivering that. Even if you personally think that you might disagree with that, even if you personally think that their concerns are not that serious or not a priority, if you want somebody's vote, you have an obligation to at least accomplish one thing: convince that constituent and potential voter that this issue that is real to them is real to you. Did you get that? If it is real to them, it's supposed to be real to you. When they're telling you that they have a problem, you're supposed to be seeing that it's real. You're not supposed to be telling them it's a figment of their imagination or, oh, that ain't really a problem. That's what we get when we talk to them. They sit up and tell us they ain't really, we don't need no damn reparations. Y'all shut up with that. Now that's what Luther Campbell was talking about before. He didn't sit and listen to us and say, that's what the issue is. He told us that's not the issue. We don't need that. So why on earth would any of us vote for you or support you or any of the other bootlicks when you made it very clear that even if we outright tell you what the issue is, you are here to just deliver the black vote to the Democrat Party for your own personal benefit? But you have absolutely no interest whatsoever in what we have to say. Now that is the gravest offense. That's the gravest offense that you can commit. That's the biggest offense that you can commit. The gravest offense that you can commit is to act like you didn't hear us when we said that. That is the gravest offense you can commit. And Luther Campbell is guilty of that across the board. I want to go a little bit further here because there's Gary Chambers. Gary Chambers, who tends to be rather sclerotic in his integrity on issues. When Gary isn't running for office, Gary actually talks like he got some sense. The problem comes when Gary needs to pull and toe the line and carry the water for the Democrat Party. That's the issue. I want you all to hear what he had to say about Louisiana's shenanigans.
Mr. Chambers, you want to give your name and your organization?
Gary Chambers, representing myself. I know how the political process works, so I know that most of what we say at this microphone doesn't mean much to you all as representatives. You've got a vote to make in order to do what you feel you need to do for the governor and your politics. But your state ranks number 50 in the nation because you continue to do these things. We rank number 50 in the economy. Number 50 in crime. You can shake your head, Representative. Number 46 in education. Number 44 in health care. Number 48 in infrastructure. Number 49 in natural environment. But you got time to take away clerks of court seats. Your priorities are jacked up, and your state continues to lose as a result. But you're proud. You're proud Republicans, proud conservatives. You're Reconstructionist. You're Reconstructionist, and it's racist. And every one of your votes reflect your moral character and the lack thereof. Now, I go to church just like you all. I don't know if we read the same Bible. Do good, seek justice, help the widow, the orphan, the oppressed, and the poor. Isaiah 1:17. Now, you can strip up the Constitution of this state. You can restructure New Orleans all you want, but you're losing even your own voters. Because last year, you lost every constitutional amendment you sit out the Capitol. Every one of them. In your own districts. And you came back down here again, playing Jeff's game. Now he wants to be president. And some of y'all won't even be representatives following along with the governor. If you believe in local representation, like I know most of you truly do, you wouldn't be meddling in this local community. But it's a majority black community. And you don't do this anywhere else in the state, which shows it's racist. I don't need data to show me the history of Louisiana. Every legislature that has ever existed in this state has been under majority white control. And you still haven't found a way to get yourselves out of the bottom 10 ranking. Georgia beats you every year. Why? Because they don't have a problem with black people prospering. The government is a job farm. You all are opening up prisons in rural parishes to create jobs for your constituents and trying to take away Calvin Duncan's job in New Orleans, where he creates jobs for black constituents. The prosperity of this state continues to decline because you lack the vision to lead us forward.
And this little character down here at the bottom, I mean, if he is not straight out of Central Casting, if this little character down here in the bottom, I mean, if this isn't the typical, I mean, if he doesn't look like Bull Connor, I mean, they haven't even changed how they look, people. This is how backwards they are. This is how suspended in time they are. They still look like Bull Connor and George Wallace to this day. Now, folks, I agree with every syllable that Gary said, except when he said that you're Reconstructionist and racist. Gary, the words is, you are white supremacists. Yeah, they are unreconstructed, is what they are. They are unreconstructed. And yes, they are racist, but they are white supremacists. So let's get it straight and get it right in the 21st century. So Gary talks like he got some sense under these circumstances, but when he runs for office, all of a sudden he's talking about bull crap like abortion and getting the weed flowing and blowing. And it's these kind of two-faced jackasses that the Democrat Party keeps propping up for the purposes of galvanizing and delivering the black vote. Okay, but when it's time to vote, the issue should be this right here, Gary. There should be one singular issue, not 5 or 10. Abortion shouldn't come out of your crooked jaw mouth. And you must be snorting something a lot more powerful than weed for you to even let that come out of your damn crooked teeth. There's only one issue. Just one. Black empowerment, and that's all. And I'll be damned when these folk got to marching, all of a sudden you got the guts to say that. But when you're running for office, all of a sudden that goes out the damn window. Just like all the rest of you Democrat shills, who your real job is to get paid to go around and gather up the black vote so that the Democrat Party can hold on to a few more seats so that they can all get paid from defense contractors and corporations and everybody else who slides them their damn money for their insider trading and all their other grifts. So just like Stacey Abrams and Andrew Gillum, it's your job to go gather up the black vote. Not so you can win, but there's some Democrat white politician after you can win after you've gathered up the black vote. There's where the issue comes in. Everything he said is correct. Louisiana should be the richest state in America, but it is lorded over by a bunch of Cro-Magnon Neanderthal white supremacists who are perfectly fine with Louisiana being a third world landfill just so long as they are the kings of the landfill. And that is the kind of psycho mind you're dealing with. So when you want to talk about places like Iran or Afghanistan and, oh, look how they oppress the people in Cuba. The people are all poor and look how they oppress the people. Look at Louisiana. Look at Mississippi. Look at Arkansas, Tennessee, all these places with redrawing their maps. You would figure that they would be focused 24/7 on their absolutely decrepit economy. But as we focused on here before, the white supremacist population don't care about being poor so long as they have the symbolic satisfaction that they are still privileged over the impoverished black person. So they can be impoverished white folk and they'll be comfortable so long as they have the emotional satisfaction of thinking that they are privileged over the impoverished black person. That's a sick individual. That is a religion. Do you understand? That's a religion. You found something that for them in value transcends money. Oh, that's a religion. And you have to understand that that is what you are up against. And the only antidote for the religion of white supremacy is the religion of black empowerment. That's the only one. And please understand that black empowerment is not won at the ballot box. Black empowerment is won at the dinner table. It is won at the church. It is won with one black person talking to another. That's where the battle is won there. I would like to take a moment to explain to you all how community building works, how community building in the case of politics works, and why it is that congressional maps are immaterial when you have a group of people who are on code. Understand exactly what it is that you'll be looking at when you have this kind of thing occurring. First of all, people, it doesn't matter where you're at. The reason why they want to break up your districts is because of where you live. They want to break up your districts because of where you live. Now, when you come into an area as part of a population, whether you are the working class, whether you are the professional class, whether you are the entrepreneurial class, your residency there is what gives you powers. But if you are a boneheaded Negro telling yourself that bringing in illegal aliens is no threat to you, to the brainwashed, boneheaded Negro telling themselves that bringing in illegal aliens is no threat to you, you are the enemy and you are the problem. Now, where you live determines your political power base. And redrawing maps becomes null and void if you have population density spread out, which is why their goal has always been to get Negroes concentrated in very small areas, living on top of each other. So you have a whole bunch of folk in a highly concentrated area. Yeah, but you're cobbled together, but we got you in one small area. We have you in concentration camp communities. That is not accidental, that is engineered. That is no accident, that is engineered. And this is the result of that type of engineering. When you have a population, the first order of business should be to be on code. Everyone cannot be allowed to be individuals.
And deal with it, nigga.
You cannot be allowed to be an individual. You don't have the luxury of being an individual. This is what happens when you operate as an individual. 5 million, 10 million, 20 million individuals. This is the result of attempting to operate as individuals. So the first part of being on code is the understanding and acceptance and obligation. You don't get to be an individual. You don't get to say, I'm here for me. Mr. I'm here for me is supposed to get run out of the state, not just out of town. His ass supposed to be run out the state. Let's go back and take a look at that boondoggle currently unfolding in Florida. You know what the real problem here is, people? And you damn right the black Ayatollah is yelling it because ain't nobody else telling it. The real problem here is that you are supposed to have black power brokers in Broward County, black power brokers in Dade County. You have a whole bunch of pimp ass niggas down there. Hey, Uncle Luke, you ain't my damn uncle. You're supposed to have black power brokers down there who make a phone call, send the word, and tell folk this is how it's going down. There will not be 4 and 5 of you in this race. There will be one. And this is the one it will be, and everyone is going to rally behind him or her. Because that is what Debbie Wasserman Schultz community has. In her community, Miriam Adelson sends the word. Larry Ellison sends the word and sends the bag and lets everybody know this is the candidate over here. Everyone is going to rally behind them. That's what it's going to be. You do not have that among the bootlicking, bumble-ass, voluptuary, pornographic class down there in Florida. You don't have that. You have a bunch of unreconstructed pimps and hoes who got picked up by the political establishment because they know pimps and hoes are bought cheap. And they told everybody, well, just say enough here, and that's what you need to say, and now you're in office. That's what they tell you. So you see, these kind of conversations are supposed to happen. Let me be very clear about this, folks. The only damn thing that Luther, Two Live Smut, Campbell is supposed to be doing, nigga, you can use your name recognition to get together a circle of folk in a forum to talk, and then you sit your ass back and don't say anything because you don't have anything of value to say.
And deal with it, nigga.
You don't have anything of value to say. Where did all those millions of dollars go, Luther? People with 30 years of compounding? I want y'all to think about that for a moment. That's a damn lifetime between what he got and the the money he still gets today and all the folk on his record label and the residuals. People, 30 years of compounding. Where the hell is it, nigga? Miriam Adelson can send the bag. Larry Ellison can send the bag. Nigga, after 30 damn years, you supposed to be able to fund whole campaigns. You supposed to have whole damn districts sewn up. But you don't. Some clown ass old nigga gonna call himself somebody's uncle. I'm not gonna say which uncle in the family you are. But I wanted to make this in a very clear contrast for you all. Y'all do realize that since Me So Horny, it's been over 30 years, right? How many of y'all understood? It's been over 30 years since Nasty As We Want to Be, I Want to Rock Right Now, and all the rest of that stuff. Y'all do realize it's been more than 3 decades, right? So that means this clown ass nigga should be sitting on paper. And yet, oh, we know he is. Oh, let me be clear, y'all. Oh, we know he is. But I want you to understand, yeah, hey, by the way, Luther, at this point right here, dude, you should be sitting on enough money to capture several political seats in Florida. Not 1 or 2, several. You're supposed to have enough respect and clout. You don't have it. You've never had it. You'll never get it. But in an imaginary world, you would have enough clout to be talking to players with the Orlando Magic and the Florida Marlins and the Miami Dolphins and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Jacksonville Jaguars. You would have enough clout to have all of them on code. That's what you would have. You would have that. But you don't. You see, you'd be a millionaire getting together with them, talking about Florida and the Miami music. Okay, where's the damn music at, dude? Where is it? Because from where we stand, we can't see it. We can't see it. All I see is Rick Ross, the rapper, not the real Rick Ross. They just going off buying houses and boats. Nobody cares about this stuff until the white supremacists sink their damn teeth in your ass. Then all of a sudden you're concerned about these issues here. But the rest of the damn year, you're sitting up here parking that damn twin-engine Cessna next to Donald Trump's actual plane. Talking about y'all are billionaires, row.
Nigga, what?
I want y'all to understand, over 30 years of compounding, and yet they're begging Debbie Wasserman Schultz what to do and what not to do. 30 damn years later, in a state that let them move how they want to move. We're not talking about a third world prison camp like Louisiana. We're not talking about a third world prison camp like Mississippi. We're talking about Florida, with a bunch of folk who made hella money decades ago. And what did they do with all this time? What did they do with all this supposed ability? What did they do? That's the point I'm making. What did they do? And I submit to you that this is what they did. I submit to you this is what they did. There was supposed to be community building. To the folks who have never explored Florida like that and gotten around Florida like that, my folks in Florida will bear me witness. My people who live in Florida will bear me witness. If you had money 30 years ago in Florida, do you understand how much you'd be sitting on today if you are in North Miami, Miami Gardens, Miami Beach? Y'all, that stuff was affordable up until about 15 years ago. Jupiter, Florida. Man, we ain't even gonna talk about the Gulf side. The Atlantic side was always overpriced. Folks, the Gulf side was still affordable until about 10 years ago. It really started taking off then. Do you realize how much in real estate value you would have if you had $1 million just to go buy property and hold it in Florida 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago? Remember, folks, 20 years ago was the housing crash, the Great Recession, the financial crisis. Remember, 20 years ago was the financial crisis. If you had $1 million in Florida 20 years ago, you have no excuse for being broke today whatsoever, particularly if you were in southern Florida. Didn't even have Brickell jumping off like that yet. Folks, do you understand how many millions you should be sitting on? And yet, have you all seen my folks in Miami? Have y'all seen what they're doing out there at Miami Airport? Have you all seen what they're doing out there at Miami Airport? Quiet is kept. Everybody's talking about LaGuardia. Everybody's talking about DFW. Folks, ain't nobody talking about what they doing out there at Miami International Airport right now. We're not talking about just one place or one thing or one item or one development. It's going up and going down. Folks, West Palm Beach. Venus Williams is there now, but West Palm Beach, Boca Raton, that was the damn hood. Fort Myers. These aren't megalopolises, people, but you got to be a millionaire to get in there now. Hell, having a marina slot is $1 million. I can keep going if you want to. Take a look at the development outside of Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale. Take a look at the development in all the area around Orlando. Everything stretching out in every direction, all the way to Cape Canaveral. Hell, pretty much damn near over to Tampa. I mean, basically that central Florida region, everything is Kissimmee, everything is done blown out. All the way west to the coast, all the way east pretty much till you get to Tampa. Even Jacksonville blowing up now. Even Jacksonville and Jacksonville Beach. I told y'all about Jacksonville Beach, a decade ago. And what I'm saying is, now I'm a Louisianian. I visit places like Dallas, Houston, Albuquerque, Seattle, Miami. I visit these places, but I don't live there. And I don't have any stored wealth there. These are the niggas that do. These are the ones that do, and these are the ones that did. And I just wanted you to be aware of exactly what they did with it, and now all these decades later, the old niggas are slithering their asses back in here, trying to demand a respect that they never earned. He wants to lead black folk in Florida. He wants to lead black folk in Florida, and we're looking at the last 3 decades to see the quality of his leadership. And at the end of it, he is reduced to begging Debbie Wasserman Schultz for mercy. Now, I need you all to understand something here. Please do not discount the value of it. The reason that you are overrun with illegal aliens is because of the development that has been done. You see, when you got hotels built, you can decide who works there. And when you just keep doing like the Patel family did decades ago, and just keep rolling it over and rolling it over and rolling it over, next thing you know, you've got hundreds of properties where you can employ your people at mass. We never got that. You got a few privileged niggas here and there, and I'm calling you what you are, niggas, here and there, They stacked up as many slutty ass hoes as they could, but they did not pile up any real estate or development or any sort of economic development. That is what they did not do. Please stop grossly overstating what Shaquille O'Neal has. The internet has become a cesspool of memes and disinformation. Please stop doing that. You take a look at all the development that's happening. You take a look at what they're doing in Centennial Yards now in Atlanta. You take a look at what they're doing there. Guess who doesn't own any high rises? I go to the Westin in downtown Atlanta. The black folk love showing up there, speakers bumping, niggas smoking weed. You own nothing. You own nothing. And once they have enough stored wealth, they can then start choosing. They have the luxury of choosing who their customer base will be. And that's when you get squeezed out, not just as residents, you get squeezed out as customers. You don't even have the ability to be a customer there. You don't have enough money to live there, and you don't even have enough money to rent. You can't afford to go in the stores. You can't afford to go to the hotels. You can't even afford to be a customer. That's when things get real. That's when everybody starts waking up, is when they don't even have the ability to be consumers. See, folks like to sit up here and dance a damn jig and coon and buffoon. Yeah, when they have the luxury of being consumers. But as soon as the white society cuts that spigot off that you can't even be a consumer, you can't even coon and clown around, folk wake up en masse. But until then, they're fine with it. Until then, they are fine with it. Need to ask y'all a question here. I want to ask you a question. I want you to think about this for just a few moments before you go any further. Luther Campbell had to navigate the music business over 3 decades ago. Luther Campbell had to navigate the business. Luther Campbell had to find talent. Luther Campbell had to work in the underground. Luther Campbell had to work without a lot of the help of the mainstream music system that you usually have. Can anyone name for me 3 young black folk that Luther Campbell has mentored to be the next Top Dog Entertainment? In 3 decades, if he did do it, we would have seen it by now. The next Top Dog Entertainment, the next Cash Money Records, the next All Money In. He's had 3 decades. We got social media and everything else. These young folk are having to bang these things out and do it on their own. How many of them got Luther Campbell in the era of social media music? How many of them got Luther Campbell to thank for a damn thing 3 decades later? We can talk about Berry Gordy from the 70s all we damn well want to. There's a whole bunch of these other niggas out here. Been living high on the hog and don't have anything to show us. Can anybody name 3 after 3 decades? Come on, y'all. Anyone? 3? Okay. Clock's done ticking. Yeah. Yeah, like that. You see, when you do that, and yes, I understand there's buffoonery out there, but I need y'all to understand something. You see, when you're the person who can get these folk together, you can afford to corral them together, you can instill in them the code. You want to know why you complain about Cadillac Records, Sony, Tommy Mottola, Leor Cohen? It's because these are old white men, old Jewish men who understood that if they grab the young folks, then they get to define the code for you and the rules of engagement. They don't wait until you're blown up they go and get you young. Ain't that right, Jay-Z? They go and pluck you off young so they can start steering you and molding you and shaping you. And then next thing you know, when you come to maturity, you have now become a replica of them. Ain't that right, Jay-Z? All of a sudden, that's how that happens, people. When you're the person who pays to mentor them, then when they come to maturity, they will be replicas of you. But we need to be clear about this next part. Now, y'all, I'm going to say something here. I'm going to say something. Because I need to say it. And it's going to upset some folk. And if anybody tries to claim that it didn't actually happen, you don't really want to do that neither. Decades ago, Brad Scarface from the Ghetto Boys. I got to remind folk about this because he wasn't just speaking for himself. He was speaking for a lot of other people in the industry. See, going into the early 2000s, folk like him, they were unhappy, y'all. They were unhappy about a number of things. They were unhappy about the direction that the music business had gone in because, you see, there wasn't as much easy money to be made anymore as they had in their heyday. And Brad Scarface sat up and said that one of the things that he blamed for it, he said that he blamed the ability for people to be able to press their own CDs. What? He did. He said that he felt like that was some kind of government plot or something, that folks were able to press their own CDs. He says he think they did that for the purposes of diluting down the music industry and splitting up the money. He said it was like the dope game. You leave, you go to jail, you come back, and all the fiends done got clean. You got to understand, a bunch of these old rappers and whatnot, they did real good back in the day because competition was limited and controlled, and they didn't allow others in. They held it hostage for themselves. I don't care if y'all are fans of folks' music. I want to talk about the men, how they operated. Y'all notice they guarded that. They guarded like the mafia. They made sure only a very, very few people would have access to the industry, to any real promotion. Well, yeah, because these old niggas was sitting up here eating high off the hog. Maybe they weren't the most talented. Maybe they weren't the most capable. They held other folk back. They gave other folks slave contracts. They sat up here and became gatekeepers because life was good for them. And once they got on, their job was not to increase the value of the industry. It was solely to increase the value of themselves. And 3 decades later, that's why you can't name anybody that they worked with who did well. In the chat room, folks naming Jay-Z, Diddy. Isn't it amazing that everywhere you go, it turns out the same? And by the way, I will go further than that. You see the same thing even today. Ain't that right, Top Dog Entertainment? What? Damn! Ain't that right, Slaughterhouse? Folks, isn't it very interesting? You can name all these record labels, but in reality, there was a whole bunch of folk who, quote unquote, got signed to it. Yeah, but only the dudes at the top ever got to eat. Isn't that amazing? You can name all these record labels, but it's way bigger than Diddy and Jay-Z, y'all. Name whatever label you want to. You see the same cycle play over and over again. They got a dozen rappers on their label. Yeah, but only the 2 guys at the top ever actually got to eat good. Everybody else is pretty much in the same position that they were in at the beginning. So that ain't just Jay-Z and Diddy. That's the rule. In the chat room, you talk about Big Mike. In the chat room, you're talking about Big Mike. You would have figured after Bushwick Bill died that Big Mike would have been brought in to the Ghetto Boys. You would have figured that, and you'd be wrong. You would have figured that they would have immediately brought Big Mike in, but that is not what happened. But then again, that was kind of the way they always did Mike. And if y'all haven't heard Having Things by Big Mike, you need to go check it out. But that's not the only one. See, y'all got to understand, dudes like Willie D. Oh, I said it. Our old friend Willie D, Silly Willie. He wants to brag about what he got and how he got on. But that's all he's ever done. That's all old niggas ever do is brag about what they got and what they got on. I'm looking at the cats around you. And we keep hearing that y'all held niggas back and cut their legs from under them. That's what we hear about. So just understand it's bigger than that. A lot of these old cats, they made their little money back in the 90s. I need y'all to understand these stories you hear about rappers being broke. Yeah, there are a lot of them who are, but there are a certain number who aren't. There's a lot of them who did go broke, absolutely, but there's a certain number that didn't. They still get a little residual check and whatnot. They'll never have to work again. Yeah, but they ain't did nothing. So they did not gather together a bunch of young kids. Can you imagine where Broward County would be today if instead of trying to organize orgies and freak-offs, if Luther Campbell had spent the last 25 years gathering together the best and the brightest, mentoring them in the industry, though I don't know if he's smart enough to even be able to mentor anybody. But anyway, could you imagine where they would be today after 20 years if he had started all of this then? And I'm not talking about as rappers, people. Listen to me carefully. I'm not talking about as rappers. Folks, the club scene in Miami is crazy. The club scene in Miami is crazy, been crazy now for 20 years. These dudes ain't talked nobody through it. They didn't mentor them. They did nothing. Hell no, because they wanted all the money for themselves. That's what y'all need to understand. In their minds, if they gamed you up and if you came up and you got boosted up, well, that in their sick minds, that's less money for them. If you making money at the game, that's less money for them. That's why they're doing it the way they are today. It doesn't look that way for no reason. It looks that way for a reason. They sat there all this time. They made themselves rich. They sat up here and slept with every slut and skank you can imagine. They got a bunch of old stories to tell now that they all got erectile dysfunction or STDs or whatever else is plaguing them. Now all they want to do is regale you with a bunch of stories showing you photographs of chicks who are a bunch of broke down grandmas today. Back when they were young and nubile. I hit this one here. I got this one over here. I laid over this. And now you're asking about the power, wealth, and influence. Oh, well, you see what it is. Now they're coming to you with their damn sob stories. That's what they did with the last 3 damn decades. And as a result, Debbie Wasserman Schultz people wasn't doing that. They weren't doing that. And now today, after 3 decades, Debbie Wasserman Schultz people are flexing their political and financial muscle. And I would like to, in Florida in particular, we have to lay a lot of this at the feet of the tether class, but we cannot lay it solely at the feet of the tether class. We're not going to do irrelevant scapegoating in that regard. Let's be clear. See, niggas went down to Florida and they saw some chicks on the beach with bikinis, and then they got distracted. They saw Miami Vice. They saw Luther Campbell and them, and then everything became about chasing hoes. It became about that. So next thing you know, dudes start flocking down to Florida to have a place so they can live a voluptuary lifestyle with the money that they made somewhere else. It then became about that. It became about recreation 24/7. That's what it degenerated into. And that's what you see today. They went down to Florida and got soft. They went down to Florida and got distracted. They went down to Florida and got brainwashed and screwed up in the damn head. That's what happened. And they were surrounded by a bunch of other individuals pursuing the exact same hedonism. And this is the result now. Yeah, y'all all sitting up here with your houses and whatever little leftover pennies from the industry you got. And Ron DeSantis is making it illegal for you to be in the damn state anymore. Congratulations. You'll be the richest niggas packing up your U-Hauls to leave. There is no excuse for having 20 damn years and not dedicating every waking moment of your life to a fundamental transformation. But you were too coked out, cracked out, stoned, and chasing raggedy sluts to be focused on that. And now that they've got the noose around your neck, now you're trying to sound an alarm. And it ain't just Southern Florida. It started in Southern Florida, but it's basically everywhere now. And while you sitting up here focused on partying and BSing and bull jiving, the white supremacists are sitting up here passing Jim Crow laws, which will now empower the local authorities and the local governments to target you. Now they'll have the majority, state majority, moving to federal. It's like, okay, I told you all 2 decades ago that this is about solidifying the white supremacy for the next 500 years. They already locked down the last 500 years. This is about freezing everything in place and solidifying white supremacy for the next 500 years. Now, I want you to understand the boneheaded niggas who sat up here and sat back and watched it happen, because life was good for Luther, y'all. He could buy any car he wanted. He could vacation. He could clown around, and he damn sure did. Him and all the rest of his kind. That's what they did. That's what they did. And this is the result. They didn't mentor anyone. They didn't gather anybody together. Y'all know how many young black folk would have flocked to Miami? They had to go to Atlanta because Luther wasn't interested in helping nobody. And even when they got to Atlanta, by the way, there's a whole lot of that garbage going on there too. What? By the way, instead of you see, in white society, they have tech incubators, Silicon Valley, future venture capitalists and tech incubators. So in other words, they're just getting together and learning how to make a better mousetrap, how to do this, whatever business they're looking at, whatever industry they're looking at, product they're looking at, how to do it better. That's a tech incubator. We should have been had media incubators. We should have been way ahead of YouTube. But we weren't, because the cats who got on before us, the John Johnsons and the Robert Johnsons, we saw what the hell they did. They had hundreds of millions of dollars, and all they did with it was chase scummy hoes. That's all they did. Some of them wound up getting divorced and having to pay their wives and side chicks and every damn thing else. And Who did they raise up? Who did they game up? Who did they mentor? Tyler Perry. I've been beating the drum on that now going on 2 decades, folk. You can't argue with me about that. You can be the most ass-kissingest clown to him if you want to be, but there's one reality you cannot deny. Name one person other than Tyler Perry that Tyler Perry helped to make get on. You take a look at his films, Tyler Perry ain't put nobody on. There is nobody who is independently famous today because of Tyler Perry. No one. Just him. Same thing for Curtis Jackson. What? Damn! Nigga, you a visitor to my city. 50 Cent ain't put nobody on. You can like Power all you want to. Ain't nobody been made a star off of Power. Nobody became a star off of Power. Idris Elba became a star off of 1 season of The Wire. 1 season. You cannot make a similar claim about anybody who's worked for Issa Rae, anyone who worked for 50 Cent, anyone who's worked for Tyler Perry. You can't name a single person who came up except them. That is all. None of them are independent stars. That's it. Now you figure if these fellas got whole damn studios, they should have something to show for it. No, folks came up off of Spike Lee. Wesley Snipes, Halle Berry, Samuel L. Jackson, Denzel Washington. No. Spike Lee made stars out of people. No, Spike Lee made stars out of people. Let's be clear about that. Giancarlo Esposito. We can go down the list. He made stars. Spike Lee made stars out of people. He made stars. Tyler Perry ain't made one. He ain't made one. In the chat room, yeah, I don't know why y'all talking about Tommy. Show me anything else. I said made a star of them. You can't name anything outside that show. The Wayans brothers made Jim Carrey into a star. He became a headliner outside of In Living Color. That's what I'm talking about. You can't name a damn thing that any of them other folk I just mentioned did other than enrich themselves. And that's the problem. And every time you turn around, what do you hear? Endless stories about them undermining other people, cutting the legs out from under other people. Now they do have that going for them, don't they? An endless parade of stories about all the other people that they've undermined. So no wonder you don't have an economic base. No wonder you don't have a viable political community here, because you're going to have to get together as individuals. And when you do, you're going to have to start building on your own. And then when you do hit that 7- and 8-figure mark, you're going to have to start mentoring others and bringing them in, because that's what the white folk do. They did not ask Charlie Kirk if he wanted to do something else. They said, here's a few $1 million, come over here to Turning Point. And they gave them something. And that's what we're supposed to have. We're supposed to have something for them to give us too. And now he's looking to call on a constituency that he did nothing for. Folks, in politics, the reason why you need to water and cultivate and fertilize the economic base is so that when it's time to vote, you have a constituency to appeal to. All he can tell us about is a bunch of raunchy ass records from the 90s. What he can't do is tell us anything beyond that. He can't do that. So no, I'm not sad to see these folks sitting up here begging and screaming. The white supremacist boot is coming down hard and fast, and the noose is getting even tighter. And this is what makes people stop talking about stupid stuff. You see, Luther don't want to talk about hoes and housing anymore now, Now, all of a sudden, everybody wants to just talk about blackness. Now, all of a sudden, they're focused on the one thing we've been talking about the whole time that they told us we were wrong about. Now, all of a sudden, wow, they're now amazingly focused on that. Ain't that amazing? When white supremacy starts running wild, folks start focusing on blackness. Right after they told you and me not to. So yeah, maybe they needed to tighten the noose some more so that these other stupid peripheral conversations that folks try to mislead us off into and detour us off into, so those become real stupid and real silly real quick. You see, people's tolerance for you dancing a jig at the church and whatnot, their tolerance grows real short when they're looking at impending doom right outside their doorway. Their tolerance for your bullcrap becomes real thin. And that's the reason why I'm like, okay, let me just go ahead and we need to just lay back here. And I understand it is difficult. I understand it is uncomfortable. We don't have the numbers or the power to inflict our will at a broad scale just yet. So you know what? For the society at large, things are going to have to become so uncomfortable and so intolerable that even the general public will not entertain these other superfluous conversations. That's what it has to be. It has to become that. However, you might disagree. Therefore, we're going to go ahead and open up the link to the Zoom here. You'll be invited to go ahead and give us a call up on Zoom. If you have been instructed by my mods or myself to call in, that is not a request, that is an order. We're talking tonight about the Republicans instituting Jim Crow, the congressional districts with the endorsement, the full endorsement of the United States Supreme Court. When they ask me about what I think about it there, it's like, this is good because now it will force everyone to focus on a singular issue. Everyone will be required to focus on a singular issue. And everyone who tries to argue with us now, there will be very little patience for them. Which is exactly what we need. That is exactly what we need. In the meantime here, I want to thank everyone who has contributed for tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo. Shout out to Karen. Thank you very much for your support tonight here. We appreciate that. To my man Logic before Emotion, Tom Slick, Mogul Mays, my man Mr. Richburg, Keenan, and everybody else here who has contributed toward tonight's program. Thank you very much for your support here. We're going to take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break here, folks. When we come back, y'all, they're piling up over here on Zoom. So we'll take some of your calls and more. This is the Black Channel.
Be the teacher, knowledge on the block. Got the kids learning, minds open like a lock. Books and skills from the east to the west. Bringing education, yeah, we're simply the best. Classes on fire, brains burning with desire. Innovation driving like a tire through the mire. Math, science, history, we got the whole range. Kids hitting new heights, teachers making a change. Used to be the teacher, stacking up the grades. Future bright shining, no need for no shades. Got the youth thriving, moving up the ladder. Smart and sharp, brains growing fatter. Lessons so lit, yeah, they stay in a blaze. Every mind sharp like a sword in the haze. Mr. B in the house breaking knowledge chains. Education kingpin, we repping the gains. Used to be the teacher.
Order yours today to experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' Body Butter. With skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Press But Not Crush is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slaveries and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening as we are discussing the redrawing of congressional lines. The Democrats' districts are being X'd out all over the place, particularly the so-called black districts. And we're just asking some simple questions here. And I've just come to the conclusion that this is good because it will force everyone to focus on the issue. Some of these silly, stupid arguments and side conversations and distractions, you can't afford to have that when they're practicing open white supremacy. Let's go on over here and jump on Zoom for us here right quick. Let me see if I can get Brother Elijah up here on Zoom. Elijah, I hope you're not calling from the subway, because if you are, this is a bad time to be doing that, because we're not going to wait around all night. Okay, Brother Elijah, we don't see you here, so... Okay, he probably called from the subway or something here, so check back with us next week, brother. Okay, we got Shakir up here on Zoom for us here. All right, Brother Shakir, what's on your mind?
These black politicians are talking blackness. That's good, because now we can present the black empowerment agenda. And if they can't advocate for it, then we can just become apolitical until they find out how they can advocate for it.
Well, isn't it amazing that now they can say black? Now, all of a sudden, they're not afraid to say black. They're not bashful about it. All of a sudden, they're saying black the whole time. Well, I thought you couldn't say that and it'd be too divisive. And, it's just, we need allies. We need everybody on the team here. And we can't just advocate just for black folk. And I'll be damned. As soon as Ron DeSantis starts putting the noose on them, as soon as Governor Jeff Landry starts doing it to them, all of a sudden, now it's okay to do it. When they need to save their own asses. Now it's okay to center a black agenda. Okay. I'll let you have the last word.
I was watching an episode of where they said that you need allies. But I know we need allies, but we need to just find out who our allies are. Of the Game of Thrones they were talking about. They were talking about allies. We need to find allies, but a lot of people say we don't have any. We have some, but we just have to have something to offer them, I guess.
Okay, well, in the words of Dr. John Henry Clark, we don't have allies and we don't have a coalition.
We have interests.
Because in order to have a coalition, you must have the power to punish the members of the coalition who break the coalition. There's the problem. And we got folk who we help them, but you're either unwilling or unable to punish the members of your so-called coalition who break the coalition. So when you have, this is just one instance among many, when they dropped the Vietnamese off in New Orleans, the Somalians in Minnesota, the Arabs in Durban, I can go down the list. You sitting up here and dropping these groups specifically in black neighborhoods, put them in the white ones, and then they ran them up out of there. They dropped the illegals in Martha's Vineyard, and the white folk made them bundt cakes and pies, and then rounded them all up and put them on buses and got them up out of there. But when it comes to us, all of a sudden, you're making sure they can say that. That's breaking the coalition right there. That's breaking the coalition. And what is your willingness or ability to punish your so-called allies who break the coalition? Because a lot more Democrats doing that. There's the problem that you have.
Well, I hope it works out for us.
Thank you for giving us a call tonight. See, that's what you do right there, is understand that if you got allies, how do you have allies and you cannot punish them when they do treacherous things? Because they can punish you. They got a plan to punish you if you go treacherous. Let's go ahead and jump back over here on Zoom again. Let's see if we can get Charles up on Zoom. Charles, what's on your mind?
Good evening, everyone. Hope you're having a blessed day. And, it is interesting that they're all trying to say the doom is here. Everything is horrible, but yet like you said, they were quiet when all this stuff happened before. Oh, in 2013, when President Obama was there, they did this stuff before. Oh, they were quiet because they were still getting caked off. Because this is they front as our allies. They front as, oh, we're good for you, we're good, this, that, and the other. And instead, guess what happens? They stab you in the back because they have no scruples. They have no real love for the black community. They see us as stepping stones. That's what they see us as.
And please understand, the civil rights generation was okay doing that. They were all right accepting that. And that's why this got ingrained in the culture and got ingrained in the politics, because the civil rights generation was willing to accept that position. They're willing to accept tokenism. They're willing to accept that. And do you have some cocaine and some child support? We'll take it. Now they think that we've gone crazy because we won't accept it.
Yep.
And the political class, as I predicted, is having a hard time shifting gears because this has worked before. It's like, hey, don't you Negroes like that? It's like, no, them old niggas did. So everybody's having to get an attitude adjustment right now. I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah. And I have no sympathies with people who woke up late here. If you really cared about this, and then you see what's like, you see on the screen right now, you have like, Justin Peterson doing all that dancing and just buck diving and everything else.
With a church full of folks sitting up here lapping it up because that's what the old niggas taught them to do.
Oh God, it's embarrassing, and the worst part of it, because years ago, I think one of them, maybe it was Justin Peterson with a bald head, without his afro, what have you, was talking like was doing the same typical Republican stuff too. So all he does is just this fake performance. All of this is just fake performance and trying to get the Holy Spirit and what have you. Meanwhile, everybody else seeing it like, no, this is a clown stuff. This is a joke.
Well, for those of us who do, but when you take a look at those seats and those pews in there, there's still folk who got an appetite for that garbage. Thank you very much for giving us a call today. Let's go ahead and see if we can get Superpower Media up here on Zoom for us here. Yeah, y'all, you have the luxury of indulging buffoonery when you still got a job at the GM plant and the GE plant. When you're living on your pension, you can indulge buffoonery. For the rest of us out here still catching hell in the trenches, we don't have any taste for it. All right, Superpower Media, what's on your mind?
Jason, great broadcast as always. I want to say this, it was like Jeremiah said, the chickens has come home to roost. Instead of the chickens coming home, the white supremacists has come home to roost. And what these politicians forgot about is that white supremacy ain't gonna never stop coming after us. And they thought that they had a good place and where they was at, the Congressional Coon Caucus, no matter what state they're in, wherever the Black Caucus is, they haven't done anything for Black people. And then but they want your vote. That's the sad part about it. And the only Black politician that I can respect in my lifetime was Marion Barry. Yeah, he was on crack, but man, that dude fought for Black people. The whole time he was in office, every time they reelected him, he would fight for his constituents in Washington, D.C. They made sure
we had very few from back in the day. It's been very, very few, I'll give credit. I've been a big critic of Andrew Young, but I give credit to him. You can't look at Atlanta today and, not see that there's some good that came from it. Well, obviously my problem is, wait a minute, this should have been a whole lot more concentrated. And what I'm saying is that when we do have an opportunity to make these moves, folks won't start getting timid and sheepish and whatnot. Okay, but when these folk make a move on us, they sit up here like barbarians at the damn gates, busting in the doors. And so you're making incremental progress, and then these guys do huge moves to try to reverse all of that. So, but I will give credit where credit is due. If they built a base for that right there, it's up to everybody else to go ahead and run with that and build on that. But when you sit up here and start talking, we allowed the white supremacists, let's be clear, we allowed them to take control of the messaging of Atlanta. And instead of us being, see, when they're in control of something, it's about blue collar, Steel City, Silicon Valley. Atlanta's the turn up spot. Chicago is turn up city. It's hot Atlanta and Chirac. That you don't have that in Martha's Vineyard. You don't have that in these white controlled areas. So allowing them to take control of the narrative and say, oh, you niggas come here to dance and sing. It's like, okay. Meanwhile, Ted Turner's building a media empire with none of that. So that was the great fail and fumble of Miami. I mean, of Atlanta in that regard. Is the folk who came after that. You got the busiest airport in the world. You supposed to be strictly focused on business. Anybody saying hot Atlanta needs to get their ass run out the damn city. Because that's part of the coon train. And by the way, who paid for those shows? Who paid for the hoish housewives of Atlanta? No, don't bring me no damn producer. Who gave her the money for that? Because we know she ain't got the money. Who gave her the money to put that garbage on? That was a marketing budget. That's the kind of thing makes you think the CIA paying for them things. It wasn't, but not directly anyway. But yeah, so I want y'all to know that that's what happened there in that regard. So no, big fail, big fumble in that regard. I'll let you have the last word.
And also down in Florida, man, you got Miss Debbie, man. She bossing up on them niggas down there. She's pretty much telling them niggas, hey, y'all niggas gonna step out the race, and I'm coming in. I'm the most senior person. You gonna vote for me. Y'all niggas gonna do what I say. And that's crazy. That's just like somebody coming in your house, dumping on the floor, talking about you gonna clean up. You better have an attitude about it. I wish somebody would. And they have no attitude about her coming in there bossing up like she's somebody.
Well, I mean, they're panicking. They're panicking now. They're panicking now because it's like, okay, do we go up against Miss Ann? They don't have a solid power base. And the real point is that you should have spent the last 3 decades assembling one. You should have spent the last 3 decades amassing one. And there's supposed to be a black power broker down there or a group. All you so-called fraternities where you niggas sit up here and grab each other by the butt cheeks. What? Y'all niggas, shout out Mark Lamont Hill and the rest of y'all sitting up here line dancing and grabbing each other by the thong. Okay, well, 3 damn decades later, what do your fraternities have to show for it? Your fraternities, Boulay, Secret Society, and the rest. This is your proof right here that they ain't worth a damn. What's happening in all these places is your proof they're not worth a damn. They were just organized to bull jive. If they were organizing to do anything serious, this simply wouldn't have occurred because they already would have had the machinery in place to make sure this didn't happen. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Let me go ahead and get Daryl up here on Zoom for me here right quick. Where's Daryl? Let me go ahead and get Daryl up here on Zoom. Daryl, I don't know where you at, brother. Okay, y'all, you got your Zimbabwe broadband going here tonight. We're going to move on. All right, Daryl, what's on your mind?
Good evening, Jason. Excellent broadcast as always. Again, chickens have just come home to roost. A lot of those politicians thought they had buddies in there, and they were white supremacists. Let them know what, and let them have it, with no grease. Let them have it. And it's been just as you said, and it's the same old, and it's going to rinse and repeat again.
No, the fact that they're begging Debbie Wasserman Schultz, what does that tell you? I mean, the Democrats and the Republicans are treating the niggas the same way.
There you go.
You are only here to empower them. That's what you're here for. And if you lose the plot or whatever, at any time they're going to yank the chain, and next thing you know, they're all on the same side. They're all on the same side of disenfranchising you.
That's right.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me go ahead and see if I can get Devontae up here, or we'll get All Black All Day next. I'll get All Black All Day next here. Let me see if I can get Devontae up here on Zoom for me here. All right, Devontae, I don't see anybody here. I'll give you 5 seconds. Make sure you have your camera and microphone turned on for me here, or else we got to move on. Okay, Devontae, he was on here. I don't know where he went. So, okay, Devontae has been abducted. Let's go ahead and see if we can get All Black All Day up here. We'll see if we can get All Black All Day up here. We'll give you a few moments here to get yourselves together here, folks. I understand things are tough right now. They're cutting out your congressional districts. They're playing with your internet. What? Some of y'all are using SpaceX or dial-up. I don't know what the case may be, but Devontae, All Black All Day. Please make sure you have your camera and your microphone turned on for me here, just so we don't have any trolling. YouTube is not going to see you. You are not going to be shown to the internet, but just so we don't have any trolling issues. All right, All Black All Day. Oh, you getting all primmied up for me here. Okay. All right, All Black All Day. Point that down for me a little bit there. Okay. All Black, if the camera goes off again, I got to cut you. So we're wasting time. I got a lot of folk on here. Make sure you keep it on for me just in case. If she wants to do a trolling or a strip dance or something, I'm just do it on the low. All right, All Black, what's on your mind?
Hi, Jason. It's been a long time. I haven't called in about 7 years. I'm so glad to call in again.
Okay. All Black, I'm not going to play with you about this, folks. When you get on the screen here, make sure you have your camera and microphone turned on. It needs to be pointed at you. You point it away from yourself after I tell you don't do that. We're not going to go round and round about this all night. So you can join us some other time. All right, let's go back here and see if we can get Devontae back up here for me for a moment. All right, Devontae, what's on your mind?
Oh, yeah, my bad, Jason.
Okay, brother, your whole microphone is in. I don't know if you got earphones in or what. It sounds like you're standing across the room, although I can see you right in front of you. So,
well, give me 1 second. Hold on.
Okay, y'all, they are trying to figure out audio, video, upside down. They got the iPod earbuds.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. We can hear you. What's on your mind?
No, I was just wondering, again, you had a nice broadcast, Jason. I just had a quick question because of the whole redistricting and everything. I remember seeing you go in at Roland Martin, and I was seeing his video posts and everything. I wanted to know your advice on how to, I would say, navigate through the noise that the propaganda that people are trying to push on the Black populace, specifically Roland Martin, when it comes to what we feel we need to do with this upcoming election.
Okay, well, the first thing you have to understand, the only thing you really have to ask is, Roland, why should we vote for Democrats? What are they going to do specifically for us? Specifically. When he starts naming stuff that applies to us and us plus, well, health care is, okay, no, nigga, just for us. And then, because when they start that garbage, we give you the other peripheral talking points just so you can make it very clear that they are lying. When they brought the Ukrainians over here, that was just for them. The money that they're giving the illegals is just for them. LGBT, just for them. Israel, just for them. Okay, hey, Roland, they vote for Democrats because they get stuff just for them. Now, if we the backbone of the party while you lying, tell us what they're going to do just for the backbone of the party, Roland.
Mm-hmm.
And all you got to do is really just stay on that point right there. That's all you'll have to do. If they lie about reparations, tell them you ain't no reparations. Y'all just got a committee or commission. We want the same thing you gave the Ukrainians and Israel. No committees, no commissions. Cut the check.
Yes, sir.
And then they say, well, they can't cut the check unless they get elected. Last talking point. It does not cost them anything to run on that platform. They should be making that commitment before they ask us for a vote. So You don't have to be elected to run on the platform of doing those things. So that's the lie he was telling it before, which is why he doesn't want me or anybody else to call in about that and shut that down. You don't have to be elected to commit to doing these things. We want to know, are you going to commit to it in order to get our vote? Now, Roland, tell us the Democrat politicians who are committing to that.
Right.
And then the conversation gets real sparse real quick. Now he's finally going to break down and start telling you that you don't need anything. Mm-hmm. You just need to vote for them, and maybe in 10 or 12 years, you get the satisfaction of voting for them. Now, ultimately, that's what he'll break down to doing, but those are the three pillars that basically destroy his talking points.
I understand. It was I feel like a lot of propaganda where everybody calling it the new, like, Jim Crow 2.0. So it was like, okay, well, that's where we at now.
That's where we've been. Brother, my whole point is that doesn't scare me. They can't use those talking points to scare me because that's where we've been. Okay, but we were under Bill Clinton. 3 strikes. Hey, Joe Biden, who said you might as well call that Biden's law. Thank you very much, Joe. I will continue to call it that because Joe sat there in front of the Senate and said you might as well call it Joe Biden's law. Okay, thank you, Joe Biden. It's your law. 3 strikes. It sure is. And the part you all forget about 3 strikes, remember they sent money to the states so that the states could start implementing their own 3 strikes laws and expanding their prisons and whatnot. So that's what 3 strikes really did, was the funding of the prison industrial complex. They don't like to remind you about that. That sounds a little wonky inside baseball, but that's the critical part of it. Not just the feds, because most prisoners are not in the feds. Notice that part of that was funding it for the states to replicate it. Now that's where mass incarceration came in, giving the states the ability to do that. So remind them about that. And that just went all the way through Barack Obama. It went through him. So we've had Jim Crow the whole time. Barack Obama oversaw and presided over the murders of black folk with impunity. And Eric, his Attorney General, Eric Holder, sat up there and made every excuse for not prosecuting these folk.
Okay.
He made every excuse for not prosecuting them, proudly so, which is why Eric Holder doesn't want to do interviews today. Because when you start naming the names, it's like, oh, hell, he don't want to say nothing. Same thing for Barack Obama. He'll only talk to folk about his museum. He won't talk about that track record. So we've been under Jim Crow. We've been under it the whole time.
Okay, so there's nothing. Basically, what you're saying doesn't change for Black people. It's just, you know what I'm saying, like.
No, they just yanked that slogan term out there. Oh, the Republicans is gonna get you. Meanwhile, the Democrats been getting us the whole time.
Right, I got you.
So there's not one devil in the room. There's two devils in the room, and the Democrats are trying to convince you there's only one. And then if you don't vote for them, the devil gonna get you. Meanwhile, the Democrats sitting there with the damn pitchfork all up and down your stomach. It's like, okay, sir, there's two devils in here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. No, there is not one devil in here. There's two of y'all. Well, I'm sorry, at least two. At least two, possibly four. But you're not going to sit up here and fool us into thinking there's only one devil in here. No, there's more than one. There really is. All right, let's go ahead and jump back over here on Zoom right quick. We got iPhone. Okay, what's your name, iPhone?
Yeah, I'm Sean.
All right, Sean, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm what you said. You know, when I was growing up as a boy, the squandered opportunity Black people had here in Florida, if we'd have had an opportunity to invest in some of the real estate.
What part of Florida are you from?
What they call Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg, Florida.
Yeah. Dude, Tampa Bay was affordable right up until Brady showed up. Tom Brady is what kicked off Tampa Bay. Yes. Up until the last decade, Tampa Bay has been, it's been real affordable. And when you saw that happening, that was the time to get in to the folks who had it. But for the folks who had 30 years ago, oh man, they've been had the opportunity.
Yeah, and even like you said, Apollo Beach was, it was nothing. And then not only that, the city I grew up in, it was called a senior citizen capital of the world because all the so-called snowbirds would come down and retire there. I'm talking about the 70s. And it was nothing. And it was affordable, like you said, right up until that time. And I also, too, wanted to confirm and also ask a quick question, but confirm what you said about the construction job. When I was growing up in the late 70s and 80s, you could quit a construction job and go down the street and have another one by 10 minutes later. Them building the interstate and all that, and then all of a sudden, Miguel and Juan got all the jobs. So my question for you then in leaving, last question is, you often say, California, California, California. Well, is it time to say that about Florida yet?
Yeah, no, Florida's done. Because here's the issue, what you just talked about there, and I've lived through all of that. In construction, the issue isn't just that you lose access to a paycheck, you also lose access to a skill set. Remember, the schools, thank you, Ronald Reagan and the Democrats, they removed all that from the schools. The skilled trades are out of the grade schools. So if you don't go to like a technical college, you don't learn that. So you used to learn these things simply after Eisenhower as a result of simply being in the American school system. So the only other way you would learn that is learning it on the job. Now, the white kids have never had that problem. Because they're the ones whose daddy's government usually funds most of this stuff. So they've always had the inside track for that. It's the black kids that were kept out. Now they bring the Mexicans up here and whatnot, and contrary to popular belief, they don't come up here with a bunch of damn skills. That's contrary to popular belief. They sit up here and learn some bootleg skills, usually from somebody else who was already here. And this is why your houses, in Florida, when it comes to house building, it is feast or famine. Your house is either done right or it ain't worth a damn. That's exactly the way it is in Florida. In Florida, your house is either well done or well cooked, and that's all it is. Well, that's the result. So it's not like they're bringing over a bunch of experts. They're bringing over folks to hurry up and get this done, hurry up and get you to close on it. Once you sign the paperwork, hopefully you don't realize what happens within the first 6 months or 12 months for that warranty, and then that's it. That's your ass. That's the business model all over the place. So if you had the opportunity to learn those skills, brother, that's the real loss, was the loss of picking up the skills. Because do you know how much, if you live there, you know how much damn money you making in Tampa Bay today if you can build a house?
Yeah.
If you can build a house in Florida, y'all, there is no such thing as a home builder or contractor in Florida that ain't making money hand over damn me fist. If you got a connection to go ahead and do the foundation, if you can do carpentry, man, you making money hand over fist. Anything you can sell for $400,000, $500,000 easy.
When I was growing up, all the brick, block, and concrete was done by black guys. We had that sold up, and we did most of the carpentry, the framing, the pulling the trusses up on the roof. We did all that, and then also we had a resource called Job Corps. I don't think that's around anymore. You know, if you was a badass kid and they booted you out of school, you either had to go to reform school or Job Corps. And kids would choose Job Corps, which is what I did, and I came out with a pre-apprenticeship in carpentry, and so I was doing real good for a long time, you know, until I got into the other field. But that's my point. I don't think we even have Job Corps anymore.
Yeah, I mean, once you have those skill sets, the only thing you need now is, you know, some capital. But when you're talking about skilled trades, it's different because all you need with that is the tools.
Right.
So if you got the skill set, you don't really have to have $1 million. If you got the tools, you know, you can go ahead and live off the land until you get things, you know, where it needs to be. Especially, number one, if you're good at what you do, which is what something like Job Corps would do or whatever. When you have formal training, that was supposed to be the point of the unions, other than just trying to stay ahead of the freed slaves, is to have somebody who mentors you. So you come in as an apprentice, then you're a journeyman, and then you're, you know, a master. Okay, and learning under somebody. But under the current environment, where you have a bunch of undocumented people who ain't even supposed to be there, and a school system that doesn't teach anything, you're at, quote unquote, the mercy of the market is where you are. But brother, I mean, if you got skilled trades ability, especially for house building, man, you would be making money hand over fist. But the problem is, think about the loss of the culture. You watched it, you saw it. Everybody used to have somebody who had a van. Everybody used to have somebody who had a van and some sawhorses. Everybody used to have somebody who had a skill saw and some sheetrock. I mean, what you said about concrete work. Everybody knew somebody who was a mason. We talk about these black folk like that. Them old niggas at the lodge. The real thing is about being bricklayers and being masons. Everybody knew something like that. Knew concrete work. Everybody knew something about that. With the loss of access to the industry, that's what dried up. It didn't dry up overnight. You and I both watched that. It didn't dry up overnight. No, it was strangled and withered on the vine over the course of a decade. And then next thing you know, it's like, okay, we've frozen them out and everybody else is fighting their ass off to get in.
In closing, the last thing I say, if you ever have a house built in Florida and Juan and Emmanuel are doing it, you better be on that construction site every day watching every 2x4 go up, or you're going to be surprised at what you get.
You better have a slab inspection. You better have a frame inspection, pre-drywall. And then you need to have a post-drywall inspection. So you really need to have 4 inspections. Foundation, frame, pre-drywall, and post-drywall. You need to inspect all of that.
They start building on the foundation like a day after it's, you know, it takes at least 24 to 48 hours for that thing to cure. They building on it the next day, and that's and you'll see big cracks in when you take your carpet up and do something else. You'll see this big crack in your foundation, and you only had the house a year or two.
No, bro, they'll lay 10 slabs in a day. They'll lay 10 slabs in a day and start the framing. They'll lay it in the rain. They'll lay 10 slabs in a day. You've seen it. Folks, I want y'all to understand that. When y'all go by a construction site, for those of you who don't understand that, some of the ladies or whatever, when you see them laying them concrete slabs out there like that, when it rains, just understand, when your framing is up, brother, you done put the lumber up for the framing. If it starts raining, please understand, well, the wood is treated. Okay, I understand that, but all kinds of issues can start setting in. So a foundation has been rained on, frame has been rained on, and then they just get straight to work. Like, there'll be puddles of water on the foundation, and they steady putting up the damn frame.
Sure.
You're going to have problems with that. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight, brother. So for those of you who don't understand some of those techniques and whatnot, so you see it raining when you go by a job site and the foundation and stuff, the very next day, as soon as it stops raining, it's okay, here they laying the lumber down. It's like, okay. You going to have issues. I hope you keep your inspect on speed dial because you will have issues. Let me go ahead and see if we can grab Huey Freeman up here on Zoom for me. All right, we got Huey Freeman up here on Zoom. Huey, Jason, what's on your mind?
Ain't nothing much, Jason. Wonderful podcast as always. And I agree with you. This is actually good because at this point in time where when we bring our concerns and what we demand to these black politicians, they're just like Clyburn. Most of them, they just laugh. They'll just make you go through a bunch of hoops and everything else. And you know what? I'm glad that the Republicans, they're just dividing up all those things, because now they're going to have, to come to a cross point. It's like, your Democrats, they will take you guys, the white Democrats, they're going to take you guys out regardless. They don't care about you guys at all. And they'll treat you just like everybody else. So whatever the Republicans are doing in regard to dividing the districts, I'm all for it. Because at this point, it doesn't matter if they're not representing us when our issues are when we bring our issues and concerns to them. And yet they just don't bring nothing to the table. They don't want to help us out. That's my problem with them.
Well, here's the thing, brother. We're not supposed to be asking them nothing. We're supposed to be telling them what the hell it is. And that's why I've been showing you all that video there, Justin Pearson sitting up here buck dancing, because the problem is what they said on here. It's like, okay, yeah, he's a problem, but why is the crowd clapping? There's what the problem is, because those are the folks who will be saying, hey, dude, we ain't got time for this. So the folks who have a appetite for that, that's the issue. See, there's the headwind that we run into. We got our heads on straight here. But that's the issue that we're running into, is when that occurs. So we got to have folk who lose their appetite for that, but it's hard to lose your appetite for it. Because here's the thing, brother. Tennessee is a no income tax state. So Tennessee, and it's been blowing up. So these places, Florida, Tennessee, Texas, some of these problem states we got here, it's a no income tax state. So a lot of folks move from Atlanta and whatnot, and they move there. And I'm just saying, they got an appetite for the bull job because they got a little extra money in their pocket. Same income, but now they get to keep a little bit more of it, and they're showing their complete and utter lack of discipline with it. They're not on code. They just want to go somewhere so they can get turned out and turned up. And it's just like, okay, let the white supremacists go ahead and squeeze that noose on the neck then. And let's see how well you dance when he starts squeezing this on you. If that's what you're going to be on, it's just like, okay, we need to step back and let that happen. Because, brother, we can warn people forever. I said this 2 decades ago. We can warn them forever about the consequences of bucking against, the grain and enabling your own subjugation. That eventually will have consequences. But we don't have any credibility if those consequences don't happen. The consequences are happening now. Now it's happening. Exactly what we said would happen if y'all keep bull jiving. Now it's happening. Severe, serious consequences. It's like, okay, so it's great for your credibility, bad for some folks' long-term health, but hey, brother, they wasn't listening to us before. They weren't listening before. And a lot of them are still sitting there bull jiving. Please understand, they'll sit there and buck dance till them folk come and kill them. Now, I mean, literally. They'll sit there and buck dance and play around till them folk come and kill them. We need to have people who understand that this is not the way to do it and that we have no appetite for it. But it's going to take a lot more pain before a critical mass of people lose their appetite for this. And like I said at the beginning, that they lose their appetite to such an extreme degree that they just say, okay, this has got to stop, and we're going to see it all the way through. Not halfway through, all the way through. So that's basically what it's going to take for them. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. I was talking about the skilled trades, but down there in Florida, it was the same thing for black women. Black women were working at the hotels. Black women were working in hospitality. That's where they learned how to get those skill sets like that. I showed y'all there was a piece from CBS News from 40-something years ago talking specifically about the illegal aliens in Florida and how they were displacing the black female workers at the hotels. You're not supposed to have chicks out here trying to concentrate on starting the OnlyFans and all this garbage here. They're supposed to have access to those things, and you're supposed to have some intelligent folk around you to tell you what it is. If you are a person who has access to work at a $20 million, $40 million, $50 million resort and quote unquote, you work in housekeeping, that what you don't understand, ma'am, is that if you work in housekeeping, you have access to every room in the hotel. That's what that means. You have access to every room there. You should be eye hustling and ear hustling everything. You are meeting millionaires and billionaires. You will get a better education working there than anybody damn well else does. They got you chasing the OnlyFans. They ain't going to pop off, and the YouTube, that ain't going to happen. Meanwhile, you're sitting around millions of dollars. Has anybody taught you how to capitalize on that? Because they're damn sure teaching the Latinos and the Indians. What? Damn! They're damn sure teaching the Latinos and the Indians. They're teaching them. So the females used to see different things and get exposed to different things. And that was back in the 80s. Could you imagine what they would be able to witness and access today? Can you imagine what Florida has become today? What young black females would have access to? Some of the things that they would learn, some of the things they could implement, not in a college classroom getting an MBA that you'll never be able to use, being trained on site, just watching and learning. That's like an internship. Did anybody train you and teach you how valuable that is? No? Okay. So from construction to hospitality to everything else here, these are things that should have been focused on. But what happened was they sold you on, let me get that nigga back up here. What happened was they sold you on interracial sexual access as your sole political priority. And when you go around Florida today, we got to tell it like it is. When you go around Florida today, what's the priority, people? Mass sexual access. Who you gonna lay up with? Where you gonna lay up with? How you gonna lay up with? That's become the priority. Building, owning. Oh, there are folks who are building and owning, don't get me wrong. There are people who are building and owning. It's just not the folk who need to be. The folk who need to be are trying to figure out how they can get their hands on renting a Bentley so they can go down there on 2nd Street and see if they can pick up some scuzzy for the weekend. But the culture in Florida today is solely focused on interracial sexual access. Is she Asian? Is she South American? Is she Indian? And they've got you focused on that like a drug. And meanwhile, they are literally outlawing you while they got you focused on this other garbage. And that's not just in one place. Miami used to be the poster child. Anybody in Florida today, anybody who's visited Florida for 3 days, it's everywhere now, man. It's everywhere. It's Broward County, Dade County, Fort Lauderdale, Orange County, Tampa. It's everywhere. Everywhere in Florida is or is fighting to be a replica of Miami. The whole damn state is a recreation state, and they're fighting to be a replica of Miami. Everywhere. Yeah, it took some time. I told you all about this a decade ago, even all the way up into the Panhandle. I was telling y'all about when you cross from Interstate 10 over from Alabama into Florida. It's all a bunch of trees and sticks on the Alabama side. As soon as you cross over into Florida, they got the development they were building there. So folks are just paying just to be in Florida. Now, granted, the Panhandle's kind of, rural area, to be totally honest, but the bottom line is everybody, especially if they have a beach, is trying to replicate what they got in Miami, or to do their own version of it, that everything's a party city and a party town. And they got you chasing that, and you go to work every day so you can chase that. And meanwhile, these other folks actually own something. That's the problem. And a bunch of folks are trying to do the same damn garbage in Tennessee because they go to downtown Nashville and they see the white folks on the weekends having their country music concerts and stuff like that, and their poetry contests, and their making their genuine handmade leather jackets. And then you got Morgan Wallen singing with Lil Durk. What? Damn! Yeah, you got a bunch of folk wanting to do that. Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that, y'all? Oh, you didn't think I knew about that? Yeah, Broadway Girls. Y'all go look up that song, Broadway Girls. Go take a look at how many views it's got. Go take a look at who's in it. There's a whole bunch of folk here. Jason, you know about that? Yeah, I know about it. I don't have to talk about it all the damn time, as silly enough as it is. Yeah, I don't have to talk about it. I know about it. I sure do. Yeah. Lil Durk is on trial. Morgan Wallen is out here with the suspected white supremacists. All hands up, we didn't see that coming. All hands up, we didn't see that coming. Wearing Confederate flag jackets. All hands up, we didn't see that one coming. So they sitting up here watching these white kids in Nashville, and then they're bringing a bull jive ass turn up attitude from Atlanta that made you powerless in Atlanta, populous but powerless. Now you've gone to Tennessee and seen the value of being populous but powerless. So until enough people suffer badly enough, lose enough that they don't even have the option of doing this garbage, they're going to have to feel the pain. They're going to have to feel the pain. That's just what it's going to have to be. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. Shout out here to Alfredo. Thank you very much for your support here tonight, Alfredo, to Ramel, Walter Benson, and everybody else here, Claudia Neely Francis, Jay Grizzly, FBA Queen, and everyone else here who's contributed to tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the Haven of Intelligent Black Thought. We do this every weekend, holidays, some days in between. So click that subscribe button, that notification button. Join us each and every time that we're here. If you haven't been to blackchannelfilms.com, check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentaries at blackchannelfilms.com. I want to thank all of you for tuning in to tonight's program, live or recorded. Thank you all for liking, subscribing, and sharing. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.